For 40 years, ancient Judah was consumed by an ideological war between the cult of Baal and the followers of Yahweh. After decades of crisis, the conflict ended in a definitive victory for Yahweh's followers. To celebrate, King Joash issued a royal decree to repair the massive temple of Yahweh. He fully funded the project, instructing the priesthood to collect all incoming sacred offerings and use the money to pay for the reconstruction. Jump forward exactly 23 years into Joash's reign. The decree is still active, and the funds have been consistently flowing into the temple. But the temple remains in ruins. The priests have executed absolutely zero repair work. How does a fully funded, high-priority national project, managed by the highest religious authorities in the land, sit completely untouched for over 2 decades? The 23-year silence exposes a recurring vulnerability in human societies. We readily hand over our most sacred duties to spiritual professionals, trusting their titles while ignoring the creeping collapse of the institution itself. To understand the failure, we have to look at the people running the operation. The religious elite held total control over both the temple's daily schedule and its treasury. Their first failure was simple greed. The repair funds were legally collected as offerings, but instead of hiring laborers, the priests diverted the money directly into their own pockets to supplement their income. Their second failure was total operational incompetence. A priest in ancient Judah was a highly trained theologian and a skilled butcher of animal sacrifices. They were not contractors, architects, or project managers. This diagram illustrates the mismatch between these two roles. On one side, you have the fine blades and vessels required for ritual sacrifice. On the other, the heavy mallets, chisels, and drafting tools needed for stonemasonry. These are entirely separate skill trees. Putting a priest in charge of building a massive stone temple guaranteed they would be completely out of their depth. Professionalizing a spiritual role does not mean that person possesses the practical, real-world competence required to build or maintain a community. But the priests are only half the problem. We have to ask why King Joash himself allowed this obvious mismanagement to go unchecked for 23 years. Look at this visualization comparing 2 distinct functions. A thermometer passively rises and falls, simply reflecting the ambient heat of its environment. A thermostat, however, actively dictates and changes that temperature. Joash was a thermometer king. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord only as long as his mentor, the high priest Jehoiada, instructed him. His faith had no independent vitality. It simply reflected the heat of the person standing next to him. That kind of passive, dependent faith carries immense risks, even today. Consider the development of the Akron Plan church layout in Ohio during the early 20th century. In one specific congregation using this design, the people grew so attached to the building and its atmosphere that they actually complained when the pastor preached too much from the Bible. The symbol of the church had successfully replaced the actual teaching of the faith. This dependency was exposed when the building burned to the ground. Within years, they raised millions of dollars to rebuild the structure exactly as it had been, spending a fortune to restore a physical shell that contained no spiritual life. This cycle demonstrates how a passive faith eventually uses sacred symbols as an anchor. When the life inside is gone, the followers cling to the tangible building to maintain the illusion that anything remains. Back in ancient Judah, the stalemate finally breaks. King Joash takes independent action and officially strips the religious professionals of their authority over the temple project. He orders a radical redistribution of power. The incoming repair funds are taken out of the hands of the priests and handed directly to everyday blue-collar laypeople, the carpenters, the builders, and the stonemasons. The historical record highlights a fascinating detail about these everyday laborers. They operated with such complete, unmonitored honesty that the crown didn't even require them to keep an accounting of the money. This shift of power is part of a deliberate biblical pattern, best illustrated by contrasting 2 historical figures, Aaron and Bezalel. Aaron was the ultimate religious professional. He was the highly trained, elite high priest who, when left in charge, passively caved to the demands of an angry crowd and built them the idolatrous golden calf. Bezalel was a blue-collar layperson. Yet he holds the distinct honor of being the very first individual in the Bible explicitly described as filled with the Spirit, empowered specifically to build the original tabernacle. The narrative rejects the idea of a spectator religion managed entirely by an elite class. True spiritual renewal relies entirely on everyday people taking active, independent responsibility for the work. In this framework, godly integrity is the only credential that matters.